Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed Shlita. Here we are on Tuesday, Yom Shlishi Pamaim Kitov, continuing our learning. We continue to daven for Chayalei Tzva Gan Yisrael, for Shalom L'Chol P'tuei Yisrael, return of Ran Gvili L'Kvuras Yisrael. We learn each day Leil Nishmat Sarah and Daniel Shimon Ben Harav Daron V'Shel Yishem Kim Damo. Next chapter, Emasai Einu Yachol Hashlim. Tiknu Chachamim Tashlumim L'Tefillah Hasmucha B'Lvad. Chazal instituted this makeup, this tashlumin, only for the tefillah that is found immediately following. So if someone, for whatever reason, was unable to daven shachris and mincha, so the only one that you can make up is mincha at the following mariv. And if you want, you can make what's called a tefillas nedava, as we have discussed previously, in lieu of shachris. However, nowadays we do not daven a tefillas nedava, so basically you're flat out of luck. If a person forgot to daven musaf, then you can't make it up, because musaf can only be brought in its day. In other words, the only time you would be making it up is if the time has gone. It's, let's say, already after Shabbos or after Yontif or after Rosh Chodesh, and you'll only bring it on that day, so therefore there is no makeup. And also someone who forgot to daven shachris or couldn't daven shachris on a day that there is musaf, even though we learn that you have to do the makeup in the most immediate tefillah in proximity, musaf does not count for this. So let's say on a Shabbos morning, if you didn't daven shachris, the makeup would come after mincha and not after musaf. If a person intentionally, for whatever reason, didn't daven one of the prayers, then the option of making up does not apply to him. And again, you can make a tefillas nedava, but as we just mentioned, that we don't do it. As we mentioned, we don't do that today. Because as we have mentioned previously also, that for a tefillas nedava, you have to know yourself that you're able to have kavanah for the entirety of tefillah from the beginning until the end. Aval. Let's say a person didn't daven mincha or didn't daven mariv, and there's still time to daven. So he didn't daven because, I have time to daven. I'll definitely have time to make it to the Zman, to Shkia, or the rest of the night. But then you got so carried away with whatever it is that you were doing that you missed the time to davening. This is not considered intentionally missing davening. And therefore you can do the makeup in the upcoming tefillah. Someone who began a meal before davening time, because he thought that he would have certainly time to daven by the Zman when he finishes eating. In the end, he forgot. He got carried away in his meal or whatever it is, and he didn't daven. Even though he should not have begun his meal because it's the time to daven, as we have seen before. He didn't do this with an intention of missing tefillah. There was no negative intention here, so therefore he can make it up with the next tefillah. He could do tashlumin. Let's say somebody's involved in a game. Let's say you're playing soccer, as the example give here. And then as Shkia comes, as sunset comes, it's the end of the davening for mincha, and they call him to daven. This is something we can certainly identify with. And he wants to finish the game. He's like, one more minute, I'll be there, I'll be right there. And he continues davening, and he continues playing. And then what happens? The Zman for davening passes. So you cannot make up your tefillah. Even though, if not for the game, he certainly would have come to daven. But since he knows for sure that the time is going to expire, however, this is considered someone who has nullified or abrogated the time for tefillah because he was involved in something else. Again, so when you play your soccer games in the afternoon, make sure you have enough time to daven, or you daven beforehand. But these are some of the instances in which we have to be mindful of when we daven and what it is that we're doing, because we have to always always make sure we get our tefillahs in on time. So we thank you for giving your time to us. Please continue davening for Chayalei Tzva Yisrael, for Shlom Chofetz Yisrael, and turn it around Kuras Yisrael. Nishmat and Daniel Shemoeh Esreh. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.